I have a question about Adam and Eve
Yes.
and
Adama
yes,
and Eva,
Eva.
the male line, the female line of the first humans created by the Anunnaki.
Yes.
Yes.
So can you clarify or give me the actual story about the Garden of Eden, the
Yes.
tree of knowledge, the snake and the apple and all of that?
Yes. Again, the extraterrestrial race known as the Anu or Anunnaki decided to infuse their genetic material into the natural hominid that evolved on your planet that you refer to now as, generally speaking, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, about 300 to 500,000 of your years ago. And in creating from that genetic manipulation, that genetic fusion, what you now recognize yourselves to be as Homo sapien. With me so far?
Yes.
All right. The idea of the snake represents the knowledge, the wisdom of the Anunnaki, especially with regard to the idea of genetics. The spiral, yes? The snake. That's why the double snakes are still on your medical caduceus. It represents the idea of DNA. But the idea is that the Anunnaki didn't want the humans to have that knowledge. They wanted them to remain somewhat subservient. Therefore, the idea of eating of the knowledge, yes,
Yes.
would be something that would be forbidden. Now, in terms of the general Garden of Eden, there were actually many spots on your planets where the Anunnaki had these genetic laboratories, but one of the main ones was in what you call the area of the Middle East. In that area near the Euphrates River, yes? And therefore that was considered the original garden. Eden is simply the name that they gave to that particular base. You follow? Yes, no?
Oh, that particular
Am I losing
area.
you?
Okay.
Yes, that particular area.
Okay.
Eden in their language. Yes? Eden. Eden. So the idea eventually is that the majority of Anunnaki who had not come to the planet recognized what the Anunnaki who did come to your planet had done. It was actually against their laws for them to have done that. And so eventually the Anunnaki that came to your world were recalled. And then it was understood that now that they had created the humans, they had to be guided to some degree. And so now and then the Anunnaki came, but the humans still had a lot of genetic markers turned off. Some of the Anunnaki then became their guides, became their tutors, helped them to grow over time. But at a certain point, they had to let them grow on their own. They had to see what they would do with the information they were given by different sources from off your world. And because of the way that was initiated to begin with, it's why the early humans considered the Anunnaki gods. And it is because of that relationship that was created that you actually have religion on your planet today. Otherwise, you wouldn't have. You understand?
Yes.
The very
we would see
idea-
ourselves as God.
You would
instead
see
of
yourselves
other
as
than.
God. You would have a direct spiritual connection to creation. You wouldn't need intermediaries. You wouldn't think that anyone was better than you, greater than you, over you, or anything like that. You understand?
Got it.
And all of the so-called commandments and laws and rules are all very limited interpretations of the true underpinning knowledge that was given, but was misinterpreted because, again, humans at the time didn't necessarily have the genetic capacity to fully understand, but the guides knew it would take time, as it has taken many thousands of years, to get to this point where you finally are remembering, finally opening up those genetic markers, finally expanding your consciousness to the degree that you can finally acknowledge that you are aspects of all that is. And that's why these conversations are now capable of happening, because you have reached a level where your vibrational state is compatible enough with the delivery of this information that we and others are allowed to do it. It's now something that can serve you and not just confuse you, although obviously there is still a lot of misinterpretation that happens based on some of the information that we and others have shared with all of you. But you're getting over it. Yes?
Yes.
Is this helping?
Yeah, so you said our markers open up over time. Is there
Yes.
like a certain point where all the markers will be open?
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
And that's why we give you the basic formula, because that's what's going to open the markers in the easiest possible way, the strongest possible way. Act on your passion. It's the highest frequency you can experience. And it's that high frequency that you raise your vibration, you make yourself a more sensitive antenna, and things come into alignment. Markers open. You start receiving more, you start perceiving more, you start understanding more, you start seeing in different ways, your perspective changes. And then you accelerate from there. So following the formula is the strongest, simplest tool we can share with you to help activate those markers in the most positive way.
Okay, thank you. And